title of my speech is Making Your Dreams Flow. And what I like to talk to you about today is I like to talk to you about not only where we find ourselves in the world today, but some of the ways that I have actually tried to use my creativity to create content and to create a life in some ways for other people other than myself. I do believe that we are very privileged to be on a planet where there are so many people with so many different gifts. And I think that, with the gifts that you've been bestowed upon, and I think you need to use those gifts to help other people. So this is a little about me right here. So as was said, I'm an Adobe educational leader and the rest of that right there. I think one of the things that has really been really special to me though is this being a LinkedIn and Lynda.com author. Because what's that allowed me to do is allow me to reach a lot of people who I wouldn't necessarily reach, and allow me to help a lot of educators who wouldn't necessarily know how to use online content. So I've been able to have some of my courses to enable people to enable themselves and their students to be successful. And if I go on here. So I think that creativity is a space that you create within yourself that allows you to expand your vision into what you really want. And I think what you really want is the key. And I think myself, a large part of my life has been trying to decide what I actually want out of my life and where am I going with the gifts that I've been given. And then the second part of that, I think, is actually, and it could be the first, is actually finding the gifts that you have. And then with the gifts that you have, trying to make sure that you're not using those gifts in a selfish way, but you're using those gifts in order to help expand other people and help other people understand their gifts. So that's, to me, what creativity is. I honestly, truly believe that with myself, and I don't know about you, but I think that it is a crime if you're not using your gifts. It's a crime if you're not using your creativity to enhance the lives of others. I distinctly remember being younger, and I remember how selfish I was. And like a lot of people, once you have kids, that sort of selfishness sort of disappears. And I just cannot imagine, thinking back now, just how selfish I was and how it was me, me, me. And I just think that all of us have an opportunity now, especially in lockdown, is to say hello to somebody online, is to say hi to somebody, when you see them walking around, social distancing, of course. Because I think there are so many people now, who are suffering. But I think now is also an amazing time to discover your gifts and discover your creativity. I really do. So this, to me, pretty much sums up to me when you're thinking about creativity and you're trying to find how to be creative. So this really sums it up for me. It's always hard to get started, but when you get started, you feel sort of like a liberation. You feel as though there's nothing that you can't do once you get started. For me, it has always been, when there has been great doubt or fear in my life, creativity has always shown up to me. Creativity has always been around the corner, just waiting for me to just let myself go. And sometimes it's been in my darkest moments that creativity has actually exploded and allowed me to create a lot of content, some of the content that I'm going to show you later on. But to me, it has been the doubt and fear. It has been the not caring what somebody else thinks and doing it anyway. It is the being able to understand that you're placed here just like everybody else, and that whatever gifts that you've been given, it is your responsibility to share those gifts. And it's not worrying about what the next person says about you sharing your gifts. It's about you making sure that your gifts are being used in a constructive way in order to enhance somebody else's life. So to me, that's what it's all about. So I want to tell you a quick story about a friend So I have a really dear friend, and I need your imaginations. So I want you to imagine that at the moment that you're in a hospital and you're hovering over, and there's a woman in a bed. She's just had a little baby. And there's a doctor there along with the father. And the doctor is just saying, I'm happy that everything is okay. And I'm happy that the baby is fine. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a doctor bursts in the door. And they say to the mother, we have got to get this kid out of here right now. We need to operate. If we don't operate, there's a good chance that he is going to die. And what is amazing about that story is that little child, when he was sick and when he eventually went home, because what they told him was that, well, what they told the mother was that, look, we've operated and we've done as much as we can, as much as we can. And you can take him home, but there's nothing else we can do. And for months, that little baby had like a big stomach, that little baby couldn't eat, couldn't keep anything down. But yet that mom found the creativity in order to help that child survive. That mom found the creativity in order to help that child survive. And I'm saying that it is amazing within all of us. Sometimes we think that we don't have it in us, but I'm telling you now, there is so much in you that you haven't touched yet. And there was so much in that woman, who hadn't touched, who was, touched. And I'm saying, that friend of mine, that's me. And, they gave me 6 months to live. And they told my mom that they doubted very seriously that I would even survive. But you know what? I've allowed myself to love myself, and I've allowed myself to grow. And I've allowed myself to take the creativity that's within me to just flow. And I've allowed myself to give myself permission not to worry about what the next person thinks about what I'm doing, because I know that what I'm doing is what I am trying to make sure that I can do to enhance the world. So this is that lady right there. That lady right there at the moment is 95 years old. She had COVID. Luckily enough, she's gotten through it, but she's in bed now, But that woman was the spark of anything that I knew that was creative. That woman was a spark that allowed me to understand that anything was possible, And I'm telling you right now, as a human being, I'm telling you, anything is possible. Right now, you just need to write down your goals, write down your dreams, and find out what it is that you really want to do. And I'm telling you, things will start coming to you that you never knew would come to you just through the thought. So these are my kids. And when I say these are my kids, these are kids back in the United States. So one of the things that I wanted to do, I wanted to be able to share my life with other people and just to show them that regardless of where I was, that is a possibility that they could get there too. Because I was one of these kids, I was in classrooms just like these. I was one of these kids who didn't have much, but what I had love. And what I always wanted to do was I always wanted to be successful. And I think, you as adults and the people that you have around you, it's your responsibility to uplift other people. It is your responsibility to try to make the next man feel good about themselves. So what I did with these kids is I got in contact with one of the teachers that I knew. So this is from my hometown of St. Matthews. I'm now presently in London, and I've been here now for 30 plus years. But we got in contact, and I said to her that I wanted to send some copies of my book. My book is a self-help book, and my book is about how people in my life has helped me to get where I'm at today, and has helped me to understand that regardless of who you are, that you're an important person. So when they received these books, what they did was they all read the books, and they read a chapter. We did a six weeks program. They read a chapter a week, and each week we would then discuss the chapters. So what I thought was, okay, that's fine. But at the time, we were all able to travel. So what I thought, okay, what I'll do then is every place that I travel, what I would do is I would do videos and I would do courses for these kids. And again, never came to me, never thought about it before, but wanting to make myself available to somebody else and wanting to make other people feel better sometimes than I used to feel myself. So what I've got here is these are some courses that I've created that I shared with those students. So the first one here that I've shared is, if you click here, this is my visit to Rome. In the city of Rome, there stands a huge theater, which is also an amphitheater, which is an ancient college. In the city of Rome, there stands. So what we did was we built a curriculum around Rome. And then I was able to go to Rome and I was able to do all the recordings in Rome. And now those kids have the opportunity to actually be there with me, even though they're not physically there, they were there with me. The other thing that I want to show you today is my book. So this is an animated copy of my book that I did. And if I just show you what we wanted to do on the side was we wanted to give them a dictionary. So if you click on any one of these, it shows the actual text that comes up and what that particular word means. If you then click next right here, what then happens is we also have, if you click here, we also have, if you take your mouse over, we can show them what a real pig looks like, okay? We then go back home, and then what I wanted to do was to create the comic book that I'd created. I wanted to make it live. So what I did was we came here.
Hi, my name is Renaldo Lawrence, but my family calls me Boo. This is the story of how I learned about values and responsibilities.
And then you go on.
It was getting late in the day when my family heard this car horn blowing.
So that was another way that I used my skills and talent, in order to try to help the students. And another one is this. I just recently, well, not recently, but went to Dubai.
أطفالنا الأعزاء أهلا بكم في مدينتكم دبي. Okay, guys, I wanted to give you an idea of where I'm staying, and the main purpose of these videos is to take you on the journey with me. I want you to understand that I was sitting right where you're sitting one day, and you can be right where I'm standing another day for you. All you have to do is make sure that you get that education, listen to your teacher, and make sure that you're doing what you need to do.
And what I wanted to do was show them the whole place. So we went all around to the Burj Khalifa. And what we did was we did video up top the Burj Khalifa while I narrated where we were. And so to me, that was my way of actually helping and showing kids how to get along. And I'm actually doing a curriculum now based around London once we're able to get back out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to then actually then teach the kids about London. And what I'm trying to do now is trying to find other educators around who I can then share this experience with and share wherever I go in the world, is to try to help other kids understand that everything is possible. Things are possible. And then the last thing I like to say to you today is this, stop dreaming and start doing. It's extremely important that you as an individual, that you start doing the things that you want to do that are going to enhance other people's lives. And I just thought to myself, who are you that you can't share your creativity and gifts with the world? Because the world desperately needs you. And it's up to you, in order to start using the gifts that you have in order to make the world a better place. And that's what I had to say today. And it's just important to me that the closing thing that I would want to say to you, that each one of you are gifted, each one of you are blessed. Why not share that blessing with somebody else? Why not share that creativity with somebody else? Because there's a lot stored up inside of you, but it's up to you to start using that stuff that's stored up inside of you to make the world a better place. And I thank you for taking the time to come today. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Renaldo. And
pleasure.
Please type your questions into the chat. That was a very moving and inspiring talk. Thank you.
We all have so many gifts, and what happens with us in the world is somebody says that you can't do something, or you see somebody do something, you think, oh, I can't do that. But that is one of the biggest lies in the world. You can do what you want to do. You know, there's a thing now, and it's amazing, and it's called the internet. And you can find whatever you want on the internet. You know, a lot of my kids, I ask them, well, what do you want to be up? Sir, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I say to them, well, have you started looking? He said, well, no, I can't go to university. I said, but there's a whole university on the internet. There's a whole university right there waiting for you. And all it takes is 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. If you learn something for 10 minutes a day, then there's no telling where you'll be at the end of the year. You know, but there's one big thing. You got to want to do it. And you have to want to feel that you're special, and you have to want to understand that you are so gifted and blessed. And if you don't use those gifts, none of us know when we're going to leave here. None of us. But I guarantee you one thing. When I leave, I will have done everything that I can to make somebody else's life better. And I think that's all of us. I think that's our responsibility as human beings.
Okay, so we've got a couple of questions in the chat.
Mhm.
So the first one is from Abby McGovern.
Hi,
Thank you, Abby. How do you find ways to inspire yourself when you're feeling uninspired?
Oh, that is a great question. I'm gonna tell you exactly what I do, and I have been doing for the last 5 years. So I'm the kind of person who, first of all, I look for the positives in everything. But what I do before I go to bed every single night, and have done for the last 5 years, is I write down 3 things that I've done that were fantastic the day before, that I considered fantastic. And the number one thing that I write down, I could breathe. I could breathe. I'm above ground. And then I write a few other things down. And then the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is the first thing I read. It's the first thing I read. So therefore, my day starts out in a very positive light. The other thing that I've stopped is in the mornings, I stop watching the news because my day is too important for me to deal with something that's negative, and news is always usually negative. So as far as I'm concerned, what I do is I read those things, I get up, I don't watch the news, and I listen to self-help tapes all the way to work every single day. I listen to something positive every day, every single day. And by the way, guys, if you follow me on Facebook, if you follow me on Twitter, or if you follow me on Instagram, I put out a post about 40 seconds or less for the last 5 years, all inspirational stuff for the last 5 years, because I just feel that with the way the world is today, maybe one person can hear one thing that I say, and it just might help make their day.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to read out a couple of the other comments you've received. You got a 100 emoji from Vanessa.
Oh,
Action is the way from Andrew.
Thank you.
It's hard to do emojis in Zoom, so thank you very much, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Will says you are inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you. But can I just
and-
say this? Can I just say this? So are you. So are you. And you're inspirational in your own way. And I think what happens to it is that sometimes we don't see ourselves the way that we really are, because there's so many things vying for our time. There's so many things that you feel that you have to do, you know, and you don't have time to sit down sometime and think for yourself. But I ask you to do one thing: turn the television off for 10 minutes, turn the TV off for 10 minutes, and just write down all the things that you've done that you feel good about, that will make you feel good about yourself. Because we always tend to navigate or look at the negative. Look at the positives in your life. And I'm not saying I don't have negatives. Look, I've got a son right now who has multiple blood clots in his lungs. I've got a mom right now who's 95 years old, who's in a bed, you know? But what do? Do I mope? No, I can't. I can't, because there's somebody else in the world that might need anything that I have to say. That's just the way that I look at it.
Excellent. I've just shared Ronaldo's Instagram in the chat. There's another question.
Sure.
So Abby Rudd asks, how do you balance learning from someone who is better at your gift without bringing in negative comparison? Thank you,
Okay,
Abby.
so that is an excellent question, because the first thing that human beings do, we do 2 things. We either jealous or we're negative and think that the person knows more than us. If I meet somebody and there's something I want to know, and I don't know what they know, I am the best person in the world at shutting up. I am the best person in the world at just being quiet and acting stupid and acting dumb because I want the knowledge that you got. And I don't mind, I don't feel, let me put it like this. Okay, right now, so there's a lot of teachers right now who want to go online but have never done it before. And there's a lot of teachers right now who are feeling really bad about not being able to provide their kid with the education that they want to provide their students with. So how I look at it is like this. I have got an opportunity to learn something different. I've got an opportunity that if somebody's giving training, I jump on that training and I can record that training, and then I can listen back to it in my own time. I listen to countless amount of information daily. Television is a thing that I put on maybe at night, but I'm kind of sad because my computer never leaves my hand. So I'm sort of sad. So I'm always vying for information. And the other thing that I'm always vying for is I'm always looking for somebody to tell me what you can do to make yourself better. And that's the way I look at my life. What can you do to make yourself better? What can you do to make somebody else better? And not necessarily that somebody knows more than me, but man, what can I learn from the next person? You're never going to be the genius in the world, regardless of what you do. You're never going to be the top, but you can darn sure make sure that you're close to the top. And to me, that's all that matters. Because if you're doing more than one thing, it's impossible to be great at everything, but you can be very good at a lot of things. And that's how I view it.
Thank you so much, Renaldo. Excellent answer. Just a couple more comments. Vanessa said that she's taken your advice and it made a great difference, which is excellent. Thank you for sharing, Vanessa.
Can I just say this about Vanessa? I know Vanessa, and one of the things that Vanessa did with me is Vanessa runs, and I had never done this before, but Vanessa runs, she's like the head of, she works with Autism England. So what we did this summer was she talked to me about autism and how people are who have autism. So what we did was I developed a course using the Google platform in order to teach parents how to use the Google platform so they could better communicate with their kids. And then there are other tools like spark.adobe.com. We actually taught them how to use some of the Spark stuff so they can then have better communication with their kids. So Vanessa, thank you very much.
Now there's another comment from Beth Geegan, and she says, I appreciate your story and the encouragement to look within and believe in ourselves and connect outside of ourselves for how we can assist others. Thank you.
But Beth, can I say this one thing to you? The greatest gift that you ever will have in your life is your mind. And it's so crazy how we use our mind to be against ourselves. It is so crazy. It is so crazy how you'll use your mind to tell you that you're not good at doing something. It is amazing. So reverse that, flip it on its head. Find reasons why you're great. Thank you.
So please feel free to send in many more questions. So Vanessa said, I stopped being fearful of myself and stopped listening to others. Renaldo made me see my potential. And she also says, National Autistic Society and inspired parents and carers with autistic children. There's a need for more e-learning, especially in COVID, and Google Drive is the boom. So really highlighting the
Can I ask a question, please? Is there someone here who want to tell me what you do? And just tell me when you got up this morning, what was the first thing that you thought about? Was it negative? Was it positive? What was the first thing? Anybody? Can somebody tell me, please? Do you remember? Courtney? He's like, oh my God, he called on me. Hi, Courtney. Can you unmute Courtney, please? Is that possible? Hi, Courtney.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
You know what? I'm great. I'm breathing. I'm great.
Great. So I don't know if this will disappoint you, but as I recall it, The very first thought was I didn't know what time it was. I thought I was waking up in the middle of the night. It was too early.
Right.
And the very second thought was like the conversation from the night before about my health regime and what I was going to eat and exercise. And so my mind was sort of rambling a bit early on.
I want you to try something. And if it doesn't work, so what? It doesn't work for you. Try tonight and do it for 1 week. Write down 3 things that you've done great during the day, and then read those first thing in the morning and see how you feel from there. Because don't forget that the idea is that not only are you encouraging yourself, but you're supporting yourself by being happy. And I think so many of us are unhappy underneath, you know, but if you find reasons to be happy, like the great things that you've done during the course of the day, and sometimes, man, you got to lie to yourself. I lie to myself all the time. I feel great. I feel amazing. I feel phenomenal. I lie to myself all the time. But guess what? After lying so many times, guess how I feel? I feel phenomenal. I feel great. And one other quick story I want to tell you. I have a very good friend who, his wife is the best friend of my wife. And his name is Cliff. And Cliff got in the car with somebody and they didn't tell him that he had COVID, and Cliff caught COVID. And Cliff is the kind of guy, he's an exercise guy, you know, he's a bodybuilding guy, played American football, you know, played in the pros. And Cliff went out one night and came back home, and then his friends couldn't find him. And then they knocked on the door, and then they had to bust in the door. And then when they got in, they found him on the floor, and they had to take him to the hospital. And when he got into the hospital, right now, Cliff is alive, but they had to take Cliff's whole head off and then rejig stuff, you know? And I spoke to him the other night, and he can't really talk now, but he can just do like that. But he's alive and he's smiling. And I ask you right now, what have you got to be sad about? What have you got to be sad about? You know what I mean? If you put things in perspective, you know, and that's the thing with me. And I'm not telling you that sometimes I'm not sad. That would be the biggest lie in the world. But I try to snap out it like that because I don't like the feeling of being sad. I just don't like it. I just hate it. Is it Abby? Is it ABI, Miss Rudd? Hi, how are you? Can you tell me something that you thought? Thank you, Courtney. Can you tell me something that you thought this morning?
About being positive.
Yeah, well, just what did you think getting up?
I think, well, although it's unpaid, I'm glad to kind of be in a new work position at the moment, which is, it's quite similar to this. Like at the moment, they're just bringing a lot of guest speakers in, talking about motivation, trying to be goal orientated and all that.
Right. Well, I tell you what, be the best that you can at that job. Because a lot of people, when you start getting jobs, you know, and that's the problem with a lot of kids today, they want to be paid straight away and have done nothing. You know, it's about getting in there, getting the experience, you know, and I'm quite sure you're going to be amazing at it. Quite sure you will be.
Thank you.
Just jumping in to say that there's quite a lot in the chat.
I haven't actually seen the chat.
So I'm just going to run through as much as I can quickly.
I can't do 2 things at one time. I can't
So Jackie has said that she has quite negative experiences in the mornings. She didn't really want to wake up, and she kind of has quite negative thoughts when she wakes up. But I hope that this has been quite inspirational for you, Jackie, because I'm sure that you are not a failure. And Frida says that she wrote that she thanked when she woke up this morning. She wrote that she thanked for a great sleep and for facing a day off work to participate in this, amongst other great things today. Frida, we're so glad to have you with us. Abby asks, how do you keep your creativity?
Can I just say this? Guys, yeah. I don't like to go into work most mornings. I hate it. I hate it. But I lie to myself. As going to work, I'm like, man, this is going to be the best day you've ever had in your life. And by the time I get to work, so when I go to work, I have like about, it's 45 minutes. So I can lie to myself a lot in 45 minutes, you know? And then so, you know, I just tell myself, and by the time I get there, you might as well make it a good day. You made the effort to get there, so you might as well do what you need to do, you know?
Yeah.
So don't think it's all rosy here. It's not. But boy, like I said, I can lie to myself with the best of them.
Janice seems to tap into that as well. She says that the initial thought is usually somewhat negative, but once I start moving, thoughts change. So yeah, very similar. Abby asks, how do you keep your creative self glowing and burning on a dark day?
So what I do is in terms of creativity, I have Inc. magazine, I have Fast Company magazine, I have Vogue, and those three magazines there has been like my lifeline. Because what I do is, if they're doing it in companies, then I don't see any reason why I can't do it in schools. All I have to do is alter what they're doing in companies to make it suit my students. And so then what that also does for me is it allows me to create content that when my students get out into the real world, they'll have some form of contact with what that it is that they're going to do, you know? So like I teach web development, I teach video production, and I teach some graphic stuff. And, you know, here, what we had was for a few years, we had a guy here who changed the curriculum, and the curriculum was just about coding. And, you know, it is great if you're a coder, and I love coders, but not everybody in the world has a mathematical brain to code. And the majority of the people don't. So you're excluding so many people. So what I was happy with is that the kids that I come in contact with, although some of them might be able to code, it is that creative side. And every time you walk outside, what do you see? You see something that was created with something else. You know, you see something that was created with this. You see something was created with Photoshop, with Illustrator, you know, with Premiere Pro. You know, so that's where I'm at. You know, and speaking of Photoshop, I see we got Andrew in here, who is Mr. Photoshop. Thanks for coming along, Andrew. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So Andrew has also asked a question. And yeah, welcome, Andrew. He's asked, what would you say are the most important things to look out for to keep purpose and inspiration in my chosen career? Excellent question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the number one thing is to try to keep on top of new developments. And I think keep on top of what you know. And I think what people try to do a lot of times is they try to get the flyby stuff, you know, the top level stuff. But if you have no foundation, you know, if you build a house just on sand, you know, and not on bricks, that house will eventually fall. So you need to have the foundation for whatever you're trying to do in your life, and then you build up from there. You know, I will admit, I am sad. So I'm telling you this now, I'm sad, okay? But I am on my computer using the Adobe stuff probably 2.5 to 3 hours every single day, because there's always something different. And I'm not competing against somebody else. I'm competing against me to create the best stuff that I can create for the purposes that I have. And that, you know, I could never create, say like Andrew, I could never create what Andrew creates, because Andrew has a different kind of brain than I do. So I know where my lane is. And that's the other thing. You try to find your lane. And when you find your lane, you stay in your lane. Now, every once in a while, I'll jump out there to somebody else's lane and see what it tastes like and see what it feels like. But I'll jump back into my lane where I'm comfortable. And then I'll jump back out a little bit. And then when I get comfortable jumping out, then I'll pull some of that lane into what I'm doing. But I'm never just going to jump out there and act like I'm the expert at anything, because there's so much that I don't know. But there is so much that I know. Okay.
Thank you once again. We've still got a little bit more time, and I think we have enough time for one more question if anyone wants to contribute in the chat. But it is very important to keep up with all the news.
Is it Frida? Is it Frida? Frida. Can you unmic Frida for me, please?
Absolutely.
Okay, sure.
How are you?
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Where are you? I see
Iceland.
Yes, I see the wonderful outside. Oh my gosh.
Well, you should see the rest of it. It's wonderful, and it's very cold.
And guess what? We were supposed to be there this week for this conference.
Really? Oh, really?
Yes. But
That's fantastic.
with the pandemic and everything, this is why. Yeah.
Oh, well, next year will come, surely.
Oh, I will be there as quick as they can pay for a plane ticket.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you, Renaldo.
I just wanted to say hello, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Guys, can I just say with all my heart Thank you very much for taking the time to spend with me today. And thank you for thinking that what I had to say was enough for you to stick around and listen to what I had to say. And I just want to leave you with one thing. You are gifted, you are blessed, but the only problem is each and every day you might not think like that. But you got to make sure you include something in your day that you give yourself credit for something in your day. Most of us go through our life and don't give ourselves credit for anything that we do. Stop sometimes and give yourself credit. And because the day is so hustle and bustle, write down what you've done that you figure that is good for you. And then you can reread it. Because, man, if you were put on this planet and you're breathing, there is something extremely unique about you. And there's something that the world needs from you. And it's your mission to find out what that is that the world needs from you. And I hope that our path will cross again. But if they don't, I guarantee you one thing. It is up to you what you become, and it's up to you what your life will be. And I hope that it is amazing for you. I really do. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. And 5 minutes left. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending. We're kind of out of time for questions, but there's room for one quick one. But yes, Charlotte says, thank you so much, Renaldo, for a very inspiring talk.
Absolutely.
I also want to share like my best wishes for Cliff, your son, your mother. She seems like
thank you. But you know what? There's
formidable
nothing.
woman.
There is nothing.
And for
There's
continued
nothing.
recuperation.
There's nothing in my life that I wasn't given strength enough to handle. It is just adjusting to it. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
I've got grace and I've got strength for everything that comes into my life. It's how I deal with it that counts.